Business with Mahesh Joshi. Today, we're going to discuss the most pressing question of the current times. We're already in discussion with Mr. Gaurav Rastogi. The question is, how do you run your business or your companies in the age of enormous data overload and distractions? Fortunately, we are the right person, Mr. Gaurav Rastogi, a corporate yogi himself. Uh, and we were going to discuss the importance of aligning the personal traits like technical capabilities, subject matter expertise, with the other important aspects of spirituality. How do you focus and how do you deliver performance when you are being constantly distracted in the digital age? So, welcome back again, Gaurav. We were discussing about leader, the man on the mountain, and you talked about the four important pieces for the personality of a leader, which I would call leader himself. Would you like to start with the first one?
Yeah, so we were talking about time. The ability to master time for yourself and for your organization is an important trait for a leader. Let me explain what that means. And this comes from my background in yoga, where, in fact, in yoga, one of the sort of most important texts is Patanjali Yoga Sutra, and its first word has everything to do with time. The first word itself is enough for us to speak about for for days or weeks, which is atha, now. It turns out every moment and the ability to understand the moment itself and to be in the moment itself is a core part of your spiritual practice as a leader. The ability to handle layers of time is important. The ability to not feel the tyranny of the clock as you're making decisions is an important part of being a leader. The ability to play things out into the future is an important part of being a leader. And the ability to foresee the future and forestall future happenings before they happen, before future trouble before they happen. All of these have to do with mastery of time for yourself and as a leader for your organization. So let me talk about the first one, which is understanding that this moment is a moment in a series of such moments from infinity behind to infinity beyond. And understanding that this moment, there's only so much you can do, and that it plays into the context overall flow of history behind and the future in front that is unknown and yet to come. And so the ability to understand the connection of what we're doing right now in this moment, how we're spending our time in this moment, and connect it with everything that's happened and that everything that needs to happen is an important part of a leader's job. Another is the ability to slow time. It turns out, we try to do many things at the same time because we think we don't have enough time. So we try to do four things at one time or five things. It turns out it takes us now longer to do each individual thing and all the collective things because we now feel we are being oppressed by the clock. We're trying to do a lot of things. And the way to retrieve or regain some semblance of control is to slow time by being able to hold on to your attention and direct it willfully to the topic you wish to direct it to. And that's actually a core part of meditation training, which is the ability to slow time, the ability to direct your attention. You had said something in a previous conversation which got my attention, which is pay attention or pay the price. Most people don't know how to pay attention, and so they make do by paying the price. And so to learn to pay attention, you have to learn to meditate because it allows you to stop your mind from running into 10 different things and multi-threading and trying to do everything all at once. And in fact, slowing down time and focusing on one thing at a time. That's the next thing. Well, the third is being able to understand the value of time to yourself and using it your own time in being true to yourself. So Steve Jobs, in his very famous commencement address at Stanford, said this, right? He said, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living somebody else's life." Right? Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living by the results of other people's thinking. All of this is about valuing your own time, right? And therefore also valuing the time of people around you, not wasting time on things that aren't, your natural genius, and not wasting time in doing things that aren't going to bear fruit. Another thing we say in yoga is future suffering is avoidable, which is to say that, uh, for example, you're out in Houston, right? So when you see it's hurricane season, you could see on a radar, a Doppler, that here's a sort of hurricane forming and it's coming down in 3 days. You're going to close down the house and fill up the car and get ready to leave when the hurricane arrives, right? You could see that with hurricanes 3 days out, maybe. But there are hurricanes you can see 2 years, 3 years out. If you don't do this in your company today, you're going to be in deep trouble in 2 to 5 years. That future suffering is avoidable if we take action today. You can act in time. The problem is it's inconvenient to act today because maybe you see it as a leader that this is going to happen. Other people either don't see it or don't experience it or don't understand the urgency to act now, or that the discomfort you face now in transitioning or in packing up the car and leaving is nothing compared to the discomfort of having the roof blown over your head, right? It doesn't compare. And it's the same thing while running your own company, which is future suffering on account of inaction today is avoidable by taking action today. However inconvenient it might be today, it is worth doing because that's what time is about. And that's the other thing about time, which is the ability to foresee problems in the future and act. So let me sum this up. The ability to understand that this moment is but a single moment in a sequence of infinite moments behind and beyond. And therefore, knowing that this moment you can't make up for infinite time behind, and you can't do everything you have in infinite time in the front, right? You can only do so much in this moment, but don't let the smallness of this moment stop you from acting. Because you might think, hey, I have to do 20 things. Sure, if you have to do 20 things and you can only do one at a time, the only way to do them is to do them one at a time. So act now. And so that's the first thing. The second is know the value of time and your own time and everybody else's time. And then learn to slow time through the process of learning to meditate and directing attention on the things that are urgent and require attention. And that allows you to actually make up more time. So, which sounds like a paradox. You slow your thinking down, but it creates more time because you get more stuff done. And finally, things that are going to happen in time, and you see them because you're the man on the mountain, you're the one who can see far ahead in the distance. You can see future problems. Disruption is all around, right? But if the leader is distracted, then they can't see the disruption that is inevitable. But if you can learn to meditate, you will no longer be distracted. You will see the disruption that's around and act in time to avert a future disaster.
That's a very good point. I'm saying on your timing thing, I totally agree with you. But here is what we see normally, except if you take out the startups where there are no rules. It is always to get something done and get something new done. And so there is a very different kind of thinking where innovation is at the peak. You're trying to do something new. It is not you're trying to replicate what is happening. But if you look at the business structures